somehow in the recent years the House of Medici became very popular. Ever since Da Vinci's Demons onwards, many series dedicated to them have been done. But in fact, what do we know about them? Like in most cases with famous figures, the Medicis couldn't avoid the fiction surrounding them. Therefore it's really hard to decide where the facts finish and the myths begin. One well-known fact about them is that they weren't nobles, they didn't have any aristocratic titles. They were simply Italian bankers. Yet, with money and power they came to rule Florence for hundreds of years. As one of the leading families of Europe from the 14th to 16th centuries, this dynasty patronized some of the most famous artists of the Renaissance, produced popes, queens, so it's not a surprise that this family is so popular. Without further ado, here I present you 5 interesting facts about the Medici dynasty. Chronologically they were Leo X, born Giovanni di Lorenzo, Clement VII, born Giulio di Giuliano, Pius IV, born Giovanni Angelo, and Leo XI, born Alessandro Ottaviano. The last Medici, Leo, was a pope for less than a single month, which makes it one of the briefest papacies in history. The most famous of them all, Leo X, had superb taste in art, to be honest, like the rest of his relatives. He wanted to rebuild and restructure St. Peter's Basilica with the help of Michelangelo, but since there weren't enough funds, he created the indulgences, documents which declared that people who contributed to the cathedral were absolved of sins in exchange for money. Not everybody liked this idea, especially Martin Luther. Giovanni di Bicci de' Medici was the founder of the bank in Florence on which the Medici fortune was built, in 1397. At the time, Florence was an important center for banking. The city's coin, the florin, became a standard currency across Europe in the 14th century. Under Giovanni's son, Cosimo, one of the most prominent figures of the family after Lorenzo, the Medici Bank became the most powerful in Europe in the 15th century, with branches in Rome, Venice, Geneva, Milan, London, and other locations. The Vatican was a major client, and the bank was also involved in the textile and alum trades. Using his wealth, Cosimo influenced Florentine politics, launching the Medici political dynasty. Furthermore, as a patron of the arts, he helped put Florence at the center of the Renaissance. In his youth, Michelangelo was recommended for admission to a school for sculptors established by Lorenzo de' Medici, also known as Lorenzo the Magnificent. There, Lorenzo noticed the young artist's brilliant talent and invited him to live at Palazzo Medici, where he was treated like a member of the family. Michelangelo stayed at the palace for 4 years. Sandro Botticelli also lived at the Medici Palace in his youth and benefited from the family patronage throughout his career. Furthermore, some historians speculate that the woman in all his paintings is Simonetta Vespucci, the lover of Lorenzo's younger brother, Giuliano de' Medici, and that Botticelli was probably in love with her. If this is a fact or a myth we don't know, the only fact we have is that Botticelli never married in his life. Other artists that historians theorized might have resided with the Medicis for some time is the young Leonardo da Vinci. However, this is just a theory and not a proven fact. In addition to being patrons of the art, less known fact about the Medicis is that they helped support scientists, such as the astronomer and physicist Galileo Galilei. In the early 1600s, Galileo became a private tutor of Cosimo de' Medici, the teenage son of Ferdinando I, Grand Duke of Tuscany. Galileo later was hired to tutor Ferdinando's wife, who reportedly thought he was an astrologer rather than an astronomer, and had him do the Duke's horoscope. In 1610, Galileo published The Starry Messenger, a work describing recent discoveries he'd made with a telescope, including the fact that Jupiter had moons, which he named after the Medici. Galileo dedicated the book to his former student Cosimo, who after inheriting his father's title, rewarded Galileo with a post as mathematician and philosopher to the Grand Duke. Now, I guess it's not a surprise that the Medicis produced queens. After all, the Florence-born Catherine de' Medici was an infamous ruler and almost everyone knows about her, even if they are not particularly interested in history. She was a strong Medici representative, influential monarch in 16th century France and the mother of 3 French kings. Orphaned shortly after birth, Catherine was married at age 14 to Henri, the second son of King François I of France. When Henri became king in 1547, Catherine reigned as queen until her husband's death in a jousting tournament in 1559. Afterward, the couple's sickly teenage son, François, served as king until his death in 1560. Catherine's son Charles then inherited the throne, and because he was just 10, Catherine was made regent, and ruled France during a period of civil and religious conflict. Upon Charles' death, his brother Henri was king from 1574 to 1589, during which time Catherine remained involved in France's political affairs. Her name most commonly is connected with the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre of 1572, during which time thousands of Huguenots were killed both in Paris and throughout France. All these events in her life can outshine any relative's success, therefore is often forgotten that there was another Medici woman who became a queen. Catherine's distant cousin, Marie, was Queen of France from 1600 until the 1610 assassination of her husband, King Henri IV. Ironically, Marie replaced Catherine's own daughter, Marguerite, as the queen after Henri IV of France annulled his marriage soon after his ascension. After his death, Marie was appointed regent for her young son, Louis XIII. However, Marie wasn't as tough as Catherine and struggled to exert her family brand of Machiavellian influence as Queen Regent of France. Once her son, Louis XIII, took power in 1617, he had Marie exiled for the rest of her life since he disagreed with his mother's pro-Habsburg machinations. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified for another historical video. See you next Friday.